YouTube is connecting. All right, so now we are live and welcoming our YouTube audience. Just about it is connecting as we speak. I know it's not our network, must be the YouTube network still connecting, and here we are. We are live on YouTube. So welcome for all of you that are watching this broadcast on YouTube. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and I see people are trickling in already. So we're gonna give everyone a few minutes. It's 1:59. So we'll go ahead and we have some attendees already in. We'll wait for everyone to trickle in and then we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, those of you who are here. It's about 1 minute to 2. So let's give everyone another few minutes to make sure that no one misses this exciting content that we have coming up for you guys. And we haven't, had these in a while, so, staying kind of busy on our end, but we really wanted to bring this series back. So we try to put these back on our regular sort of cadence, which we try to get together at least twice a month to have these webinars. There's some great developments on the technology side, and I think this is really a hot subject that we wanted to cover. PMO, financial planning, and just a few housekeeping items. What I'm going to do is this particular webinar is not only live, but we also recorded and posted on YouTube. I'll include a link to the whole channel, actually a playlist that contains this particular webinar, but also our past webinars. And of course, you may want to look at the whole channel as a whole. There's lots of tips and tricks. It's pretty popular channel on YouTube. Also wanted to remind you all that we do offer, we're going to be covering not only the sort of the conceptual approaches to the financial planning, but also some of the tools that are available to you. And we do offer free trials on some of the tools that we're going to be talking about. And again, I'll include that in the chat also, the links to that. And probably halfway through the webinar, we'll briefly stop for a poll. We always value your opinion. Again, the polls are always anonymous. Just want to get a sense of what who our audience are. And this way we can really cater the content better in the future to accommodate your needs and really bring value to the table. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand this over to Alex Rodov. He is our subject matter expert, and he's standing by to get started and get into the PMO financial planning presentation. Alex, it's all yours.
Thank you, Yuri. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to actually see everybody, and excited to have people coming in and still trickling in. I'll do a little bit of an intro, not too much of the content of a very couple first minutes, but I do want to express my gratitude to everyone who's attending today. It's been some time, over the summer we didn't do this. We've been actually very busy. I hope that everybody was busy as well. And then I think it's a good time where we're coming back to all this series of all the webinars, and please stay tuned. We have a lot of those scheduled ahead of us, and a lot of interesting topics, a lot of interesting things that are going on in the industry. We will be sharing this information with all of you, and as always, feel free to sign up and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this webinar will likely be posted there as well. Again, my name is Alexander Rodov. My accent is coming from Belarus. I'm originally from Belarus, but today is not a topic about that. What I have been able to accomplish for some of my previous years in my career, pretty much all the aspects of project management, agile or waterfall or even Prince too. But I've been trying to stay focused on that specific area. Alexander Rodov. Accent is coming from. I'm hearing an echo. So we've been trying to focus on this specific topic of portfolio management and project portfolio management, and right now we're kind of leaning towards baking ourselves into more the financial side of the spectrum, and trying to understand and crank those numbers and understand the value of managing financials for those projects and portfolios and programs. And today's topic about that. This is probably one of the kind of higher level presentation of this information. I'll give you a little bit of industry trends and what's going on as far as my perspective from what I've been reading all along about this, and I've been encountering throughout my engagements with all of our customers. And that's been really, really exciting. A lot of new things are coming, and a lot of new things have been actually implemented. So very, very excited about that. So again, thanks for tuning up. I think there are more people coming in. Again, thank you for you guys taking time to attend our webinar. All right. So today we're going to quickly talk about trends and how we do the work. There's a Microsoft survey that just came out. Obviously, we're a Microsoft shop to a large degree. We're also Snowflake shop, and we're also overall IT consulting and strategy company. So we're working on. We're very attentive. Paying good attention to all those surveys and what our brother Microsoft does, and there's a lot of interesting insights from that coming out from the pandemic, especially. We're going to talk about project-less planning, and this will have direct relationship with the financials of all those projects, and the way they are looked at. Maybe not as exactly the same way as we look at them as project managers. Sometimes the financial office, financial people are looking at this a little bit differently. So we're gonna take a quick peek at that. Product management versus project management. This is a large topic. It's going to go through most of our conversations here, and we're going to talk about that. Chicken or egg versus work or people. I think this is a great analogy that I came up with, and I think this is very adequately represents what is going on as far as the trends with where the project or program management is going to, and how the resources are getting distributed throughout those projects versus project distributed to the resources. We're going to talk about that. Agile of all times. There is Agile everywhere here. Obviously, we just cannot ignore this, and we'll address that as well, and how this relates to our financial planning and tracking and forecasting. Being part of the team, some of this aspects of financial planning challenges are related to that being part of the team and being the team player, and sometimes we just forget about that. So we'll kind of connect the financial people and project portfolio people, making sure that they're play as a teammates there. So we're gonna also do a little bit of a demo of Power PPM, and we'll be a little bit of a demo of financial side of that house and how this is related to all these topics. Complex, and that just a few. You can put yourself on mute. All right. Trends. So this is a quick highlight of what Microsoft had released basically as a result of their survey. There's a couple of things that are kind of striking out here. Flexible work is here to stay. So there's interesting, no matter how we would want to go back to the office, I think there's a obvious, benefit for a lot of people to kind of take advantage of that flexible work framework, right? So this is, since we've been experiencing this for like a long time by now, this is likely going to stay to some form, and that's the expectation. Leaders are out of touch with employees and need a wake-up call. So this is the representation of that right part on this slide. Is when you see that the business leaders feeling kind of feeling that they're thriving, in the workplace. Because they can do more probably, and they can probably have more resources to move around, and they feel more, feel thriving basically. Where the new employees or frontline workers that are more dependent on the fact that they need to actually be in the office, they actually need to be on site. To actually do their work, and due to the circumstances, they cannot really do that. So they're really not happy, right? So and therefore, there's a little bit of a disconnect between the leaders who can basically perfectly do their work remotely versus people on the ground that actually have to be remote at some point. So that is the fact that that is kind of the findings that from that survey. I'm not going to go through all of them. You'll have that deck. You can see this pretty obvious picture here. Talent is everywhere in a hybrid world. I guess this is a good news for someone who's looking for talent, and they no longer have to focus, geographically, in certain places. Well, that has been going on for a while, as far as searching the talent that can work remotely. But now it's just kind of more evident. I would also say that there's a disadvantage of being remote is for the young generation, for the Generation Z, for those young people who need to have that interaction, by the cooler, by the taking coffee break, having the social interaction. They learn from that too. Folks who are more experienced, they have kind of already gained that experience. But those who are just starting, they're struggling into with networking and get more social and get more networking done within their network. So expand the network. So that's the downside. The way that Microsoft puts this is Generation Z is at risk and will need to be re-energized. Shrinking networks are endangering innovation, right? So a lot of times when we talk to somebody, look them in the eye, we have this interaction where it sparks the idea. So you may say, like, how this is relevant to the portfolio. There's no news about the project management and portfolio management, and doing things that we run to our project is related to communication. So communication is very, very important. So the way it has changed, the way the trends are going on is very important. How we communicate. Therefore, how are we able to actually implement and complete those projects? So quickly talk about the project class operations. This is extremely cool thing to talk about. There's a known school of thought that it's not cool to talk about projects. It's an old way of thinking, and new generations very much for things like project-less operations or project-less, work. Talking about all sorts of agile stuff. So what we're really looking at, instead of focusing on projects, we're really looking at focusing on a product. What is it we're producing? Are we making something? Are we making servicing somebody? So focusing on that versus focusing on the delivering a project. And I'm in it for the bucks, right? And as it's straight as it sounds, it's basically where we would do something and we'll get paid for it. I mean, you can call it a project, you can call it initiative, you can call it a program, you can call it whatever you want. But after all, folks are interested to get paid. So I guess, if you look at that from this perspective, you can, remove the project from the equation, basically, and in the first place. So I would also talk about product versus project, and there's a big trend overall as far as focusing on from being a project manager to being a product manager, right? And some people may find there's a difference between those two. I'm just throw out and just kind of lay out some of the terms that I would characterize the difference between the two. So work is done to deliver results, not projects. So in the sense that, you may say, well, projects are tailored to deliver results, but not necessarily. So it's not necessarily focusing on that. But if you really focus on delivering some kind of results, then you're talking about likely of products versus projects. Again, but this is at some point your choice, right? You can call it a project or product. That's really your choice. The projects are the methodology we use to structure our work, right? So from the just theoretical perspective, what is it, the project? I mean, we need to do a bunch of different things, and we just say, you know what, all these different things, let's just call it a project A, and we're just gonna start doing these things, and we're gonna call it done, and we can complete the project. So that's really what it is. Although you may also bring up the all-known PMI, definition that this is a unique endeavor to do something else, to do something that we haven't done before, which is basically also the same thing. I'm just kind of trying to break it down why people would call something a project versus product, and that actually that has its relevance in the way we plan our financial numbers, either aligned by products or by projects. In reality, you should be able to do both. All right. Next one is ask what is the product of the project you're currently working on, right? So in a sense, like it's basically the same thing. Now, this is really what I'm trying to say is that a lot of people are making a big deal out of the, I am calling myself a product manager versus project manager. Well, as a matter of fact, the same, almost exactly the same amount of skills are needed to actually perform both types of work. It is common rebellion concept to be against project as project management concepts with PMI, etc. are attribute of an older generation. Now it's more agile. So it's basically what it is. It's more agile. It's more product oriented. It's fancier to call ourselves product manager or to call somebody a product manager versus a project manager. It's almost like, I've seen it a few times where it's almost offensive to call somebody a project manager. So that's just the world we're living, and there's nothing we can do about this. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you call it. That's basically my last point about this. And I think we've been in this topic quite a bit. Chicken or egg versus work or people. Everybody knows the concept of chicken and egg, and everybody. So I'd like to kind of translate this to the work and people. So what have been traditionally we've been thinking traditionally, right, is when you say we have the work that needs to be done, and we're going to start working on it. We're going to assign this. We're going to assign people. We're going to assign people to work, right? But if you look at this from the chicken or egg perspective, it is: do we need to do the work where this work would be useful? It will be work that we deliver something for people, and yet at the same time we need people to do that work, right? So it's basically kind of the same concept. So when you work in the PMO environment, you have a bunch of stuff that you need to do, and you start assigning people to that work. So you bring people to projects, right? You bring, and Microsoft traditional way of doing it is you need to build a team for the project and then assign the project team members to your tasks. That's kind of we've been doing this for a long time. The other side of it is basically the same thing that you're looking at, but you look at it from the completely different perspective. There's a notion, there's a trend, pretty big trend if you ask me, to say, what, now we actually have people, we actually have teams. So this is more humane, if you will. That's why it's more more authentic, more what's the right word? There's more humane, in that way of looking at it. When you look at just people first, right? You don't look at stuff that we need to do, but you look at people first. You look at teams. You look at us, me, and everybody else around us as a first thing we're looking at, and then say, what? Let's bring work to us. And it's not like we bring us to that work. It's not we assign resources to work, right? It's very, very like you as a resource be assigned to work, vice versa. We will bring the work to us, right? And so let's bring the work to those resources. Let's bring the work. There's this product development that we need to do to this team, and let's bring this work to that team. So we kind of vice versa, the different approach. And I think it's first of all, it's there, right? And it's very, very popular. A lot of modern agile frameworks are following that, where they're focusing on teams and then assigning work to teams. So that's an interesting concept. I would love to talk about this all day long, but it has a tremendous push to the way the financials are organized. If you think about this, the way you have been planning traditionally, it's just you really have to flip things upside down maybe 5 times before you find the way to actually put those numbers out there and plan for fiscal year. So, because again, financial side of the house would want to see some numbers, budgets approved ahead of time, because they can't just pull money out of thin air, and somehow it needs to be planned. So agile of all times, this is just a picture of all sorts of agile certifications, schools of thoughts, and whatnot. And it's confusing. It is confusing who is actually, preaching the right thing, right? Who is actually right here? And, to a degree, everybody's right. And based on my experience, you should really look straight at what your operations are. You should really look straight at what is it going on with your company and make the right decision. Out of all this information, out of all of this, you really need to have that analytical skill to come up with the right decision. What is it, the course of action for our PMO? And how do we plan our budget? How we track our budgets? And again, with traditional waterfall, PMBOK style, that was sort of easier. We plan ahead. We know how much it will cost us. We run the business. We take the actuals. Everything is clear. Now we have this agile, modules and processes and teams working on all these initiatives, and it's really, really hard. So, but don't worry. There's way to structure all of this and make things right. So again, don't forget you're part of the team in the sense that everyone is still playing that role. I mean, if you're an organization, where things have been a little hectic, and at some point you're feeling like the ground is no longer under my feet. But think about it: if you've been there, this far, the business has been run, and you've been able to establish some processes. You need a little bit of help to understand what's going on and actually improve it. So everybody should really take part. Some of these people are financial planners. Some of these people are program managers and project managers and developers and team members. They're all carrying the same weight. So now we're going to switch a little bit towards more the financial kind of details of that. And I just want to before I show you before I start doing the demos and stuff like that, I would like to kind of focus on those three fundamentals, making sure that this is the core of any financial planning, forecasting, or budgeting. And I already kind of mentioned some of those. So if someone knows me, then you know that I am fond of all the oceans and fish and things like that. Obviously, I would bring this three whales here. So number one is a budget. And I'm just going to bring some of those terms that, in my opinion, very, very straightforward. Describe the budget, the plan for investors. So why do we need the budget? A plan for the investors, plan for your CEO, for your CIO, for your CFO. Those folks on the top, they need to understand how much money this will cost us, right? They can't just say, "Oh, let's run open check, and you guys do whatever you want." It doesn't happen like that. You need to have a budget. Traditional, a lot of times this is very traditional way of thinking. This is very traditional way of doing it, and it's been out there and it's been proven that you need to have a budget. Accountable, meaning that you at some point need to measure yourself against what your budget was at the very beginning, or maybe midstream, or at some point. This is the concept of tracking yourself to a certain standard, right? And you set that standard, and then you track yourself against that standard, against that budget. So this is your golden post against which you're tracking. The characteristics of the forecast. One of the great books that I've read was, believe it or not, Grant Cardone was really doing this this predict theme, and then saying that when you know how to predict, you win, right? If you know what's going to happen in the future, imagine this is like your magic stick. This is your magician. You know the future, right? The forecasting, believe it or not, actually opens that window to that future. You start looking at, start building that future look of what's going on. And guess what? The better you do this, the more likely you would actually follow those forecasts the forecast that you've built for yourself. So you basically tell where you're going to go, and you go there, right? So you predict. Basically, you know how to win this way. Resolve issues when you have your forecast. And again, to begin by looking at the budget, you now compare yourself to the budget and say, actually, I have an issue, right? I may need to resolve the issue. I need to address the issue. I need to figure this out. This is the way for you to detect that when you build a forecast. Expectations. You set everybody's expectations. This is where we're going to go. It's not just for you to know the future. This is for everybody else to understand this is where we're going. This is how it's going to go, and you build a forecast. And decisions. Decisions are made based on those forecasts. Decisions are made based on the forecast compared to budgets. Basically, it's almost enabling some sort of a 2-degree education in the way what decision to make, right? You're having some information in front of you to make that decision. But I think that to predict the future, look at plan ahead of you. This is big, and this is probably the most valuable. And there's a reason why this is in the middle here. And the third one is actuals. So a lot of people I've seen, a lot of concept I've heard that actuals are very, very important and things like that. Obviously, the actuals are important, but it's to my evaluation of actuals comparing to importance of forecasts, comparing to importance of budgets. Actuals is almost like a too late thing. So actuals is telling you what happened in the past. It's almost like you ring the bell, you cannot unring the bell. It's too late. You're late, right? You're late when you know that you spent too much, right? It's kind of a too late. So if you would be doing forecasts and addressing issues, you wouldn't be too late for you to know that. You would know that it's going to happen, and you could have time to actually address that issue, so it's not too late. Anyway, I think the attribute of actual is kind of too late. You learn, right? Obviously, we want to know what happened. It's look at any bookshelf. This is your actuals. This is your books. This is your the history. You learn as much as you can what happened yesterday, what happened last week, what happened last month, last year, last decade, last century. You need to understand what happened over time, have a big perspective of what happened, and learn from it. So the big part of actuals is learning. Know your history and documentation. That's these are the attributes of the actuals. And I think these are the key kind of concepts that we're promoting, and we know everybody's kind of news for everybody to to understand the budgets, forecasts, and actuals. But I think that the depth of importance of all of these three is very important to understand when it comes to actual numbers. So we're going to kind of switch me doing some of the demos here, and I would also encourage you guys to type any questions that you have. I think we have like a chat here, and any questions that you have here, please go ahead and do that. For those folks who are going to watch this on YouTube, please feel free to post your comments there. We'll be happy to hear from you and to learn what is it else you'd like to learn.
Yeah, also, Alex, if I can interrupt for a second, we're gonna before you start the demo, we're gonna launch a quick poll. Again, it'll take a few seconds to finish it, and it's totally anonymous. Just again for us to get a sense of who our audience is and to sort of cater the content better for future sessions. So here we go. Please take your time. Again, your input is appreciated. All right, we'll give it a few more seconds. I think we got some really good responses, and I can share the results with you. That's another advantage of participating. So we could see everyone's data. All right, we're gonna end the poll now, and I'm gonna share the results. So here we go. Wow, it's really, I guess it makes sense because all of you are in some way responsible for budgeting or forecasting because you joined the PMO financial webinar. And it's interesting to see the breakdown. I guess I should have been more specific on the NA part. All right, thanks all. And here's Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Yuri. Yeah, if you have any questions, please use the chat for us to capture those, and then we'll try to address them at the end. So what you're looking at is essentially a Power Platform data-driven solution that we have offering to our customers, and it has a lot of different things in it. It has all sorts of PMO required attributes like portfolios and programs and projects, and epics, resource planning, and strategy alignment with everything that I just mentioned. Basically, and it's very, very comprehensive, and obviously it's part of the Office 365, and we can answer all sorts of questions as how to get to this or how to get a trial of this. But I'm going to be focusing on financial aspect of the financial planning and financial reporting. And the first thing I'm going to start with is the list of simple projects. Right, we have a list of projects here, and some of these projects are part of the portfolio. So they can, if I can look at the list of my portfolios that I have like 3 different portfolios, and I can have multitude of different portfolios. I can look at one of these portfolios, and I can take a look at the attributes, the names, the relevance to the strategy, and whatnot, and some of the financials. Right, I would be able to see that this portfolio has related project, has 2 projects related, and these 2 related projects, have the financial numbers that roll up to the entire portfolio. Kind of the same concept with programs. I could look at programs. I'll be able to see the program. Say open this program here, and I can take a look and see that these are 4 projects in this program. Can switch to different statuses and put some descriptions and align to the strategy. But again, I do want to focus on the related projects and their financials. So when I click on open one of these projects, and again, I can open one of these projects part of the program or portfolio, or just go to the list of projects and open one of these projects. And when I do that, I'll be able to see this project information. Then there's this financials over here. And actually get to one of the projects that I really wanted to show to you, which is going to be, I think this is the one. All right. So when I'm working with in a project environment within the financial planning cycles, where we do have this the governance stages at which you may want to say, you know what, I need to do some of the financial numbers, cranking or planning at certain workflow stage over here, and you can basically make some of these financial numbers available or unavailable within the certain financial stage. But when you do get to the financial planning, basically you would open that view, that grid that is in front of you, and you will be able to start putting some of those numbers in very focused and very, not in the strict way, but very streamlined way of doing it. Instead of saying that I will need so much on this equipment, or I'll need so much on that to spend on this, on acquisitions or on labor or on contractors. So basically, this is the one place where you can put all these numbers and actually make sure that all these numbers are in. And basically, you would say, well, but this is maybe not necessarily a too complex thing to do. But the idea is that you would have all those projects roll up to the programs, roll up to portfolios, and that becomes a very streamlined, a very strict, and down to the T process where you'll be able to actually roll up all the numbers. And making all of the project managers and portfolio managers, program managers to do this consistently, this is where you're going to actually realize a lot of value. So, and here in this specific case, we do have those three buckets, right? Those three whales where we would put those numbers in, and we can quickly get to and say, you know what, we'd like to put everything into the forecast so I can actually see very straightforward. I can see the September, the remaining month, right, for this year, October, November, December, or I can actually add a new year and say, you know, I would like to put numbers for 2021 and then for 2022. So if I'm 2021, and let's just say I'm putting my budgets for 2022, I can start with the January of 2022 and say that I'll need to spend 500,000 on 5 million on acquisition in January. I'll need to spend 5,000 on equipment in February, and I'll need to expend the labor. So I have employees and contract external contractors. So I will need to spend roughly based on my internal rate, and this could be something that your accountant may tell you that there's usually a blended rate for the employee. Let's just say I'm going to say 10,000 a month, and we're going to say this is going to last for until June. Just say until June, right? And you can see how everything rolls up, right? Rolls up to the right categories. And this is we have CapEx and OpEx. So within the operational expenses, we have employees working on the project. We're also going to have some of the contractors working on the project. We'll just say this is going to be 13,000 a month or something like that, and we're going to distribute that across until June. So you basically build your financial layout of all the numbers, and your financial office may give you all the breakdowns of all the cost categories, all the cost numbers, tying this to your general ledger or tying this to your, specific financial records. So you will be able to run analytics and run reports and be basically very, very efficient in doing that. All sorts of other, software expenses, services. There's Microsoft licenses, Power PPM licenses. You can basically, fill all those numbers and just say it's going to be something like 18, just say 1,000 a month, for example, and that is going to be our forecast. I bring up here our budget. Our budget is not filled out. So we have the process that would basically copy over some of these numbers from the financial numbers over to budget numbers. And that basically from that point going forward, we're going to lock those budget numbers up, meaning that going forward, we would be able to continuously reforecast and compare our continuous forecast against the budget. So budget becomes like a fixed number that we would establish at the very beginning of our fiscal year or the planning cycle, and then we would be able to track against the budget. Again, that's the concept of forecast is a fluid. A forecast is flexible to a degree when you are continuously reforecast starting from that current period that you're in. So right now we are in September. So September until, and let's just say this is, let's say we are running our 2021 and we've been building our budget. We've built our budget back in December 2020, and we're running our calendar fiscal year from January 22, and we're at September now. I still would be able to look at September, or September probably not, but October, November, December. I'll be able to look at those 3 months and reforecast because maybe something has changed, right? And guess what? Something has changed. There's no circumstance. There's no organization that runs as planned 100%. things change all the time. Invoices got in late, contractors change, employees change, teams change, priorities change. There's a lot of things that change. So the budgets may fluctuate, and therefore the forecast is should be continuously reforecasted. And in our situation, we have all the means in this specific framework and this specific solutions here to accommodate all this flexibility, to establish the fiscal year based on the calendar year or based on fiscal year starts in Q2 or Q3 or Q4. You have all of this flexibility, and you should have all of this flexibility in the modern financial tool that is designed to provide financial forecasting and planning. So let's go back a little bit. With build forecasts, we would be able to plug it into the there's a feature we have here to copy the forecast to the budget, and then we would start running the business, running this budget. Let's just say we're in the beginning, we're in January 22. We're going to start receiving what? We're going to start receiving actuals. So and January 22. What's my actuals? Okay, we're still in 2021 planning here. It's only obviously we can't plug in actuals in the future because we're not in October yet, but we're in September now, and we'll be able to plug those actuals in here. And you may ask, how do we do this? There's a different answer. There's one answer to that question. How do we plug the actuals? We have customers that we would take their SAP actual numbers and on the background plug them into this table here, or we would take it from other sources, and then we'll process those actuals and plug them in here. There's also a lot of options to consider when you plug in actuals for things like labor, especially employees, right, or contractors. For contractors, it's probably easy because you most likely have those timesheets, and that becomes your actuals. But when it comes to internal resources and internal employees, that may become a little bit more cumbersome. And then we have like all kind of variety of methodologies to choose from, and basically based on the HR information, knowing how many teams we have and how many people we have in which teams, we can actually assume those actuals as people are getting their paychecks, right? We assume those actuals and the way they've been distributed to projects, we can start plugging them in. That builds a lot of accountability when you look at converting those numbers into the dollar amounts. That becomes really, really tangible. That becomes, if you will, it becomes really, really precise from the mathematical perspective as to how those actuals are transferring into dollars, especially in the labor resources. Obviously, actuals from equipment purchases, from invoices paid, we can feed that information. We do feed this information here. And that allows you to build all sorts of true analytics and be able to truly predict the future, and be able to truly look at all your numbers, look at your actuals and look at your history, and build the analytics. I'm going to show you some of the analytics. This is not everything, obviously, but this is something that we like to kind of show in some of our webinars and some of our demos that we do. When we do the demos, we do a little bit more deep dive and address specific concerns of the customer. But in general terms, these are the trending views, right? These are the trending capabilities that we have to say, well, how the numbers looked like last month, how the numbers looked like 2 months ago, last quarter. And in the financial tracking, from the financial tracking perspective, we do want to look at numbers on a regular basis and understand if we are deviating from our plans. Just very simple example of why we need that is the cash flow, right? We need to predict how much money we would need in our bank account in order to pay our bills, right? And that may not be available. There's all sorts of activities that needs to happen in order for this to actualize. But anyway, we're looking at the upper left quadrant here, earnings year one by snapshot. So we're looking at first we plan the earnings to be such and such, and we can see that by February we've got to understand that we're actually not going to have those earnings. By March, the earnings are shrinking basically as we speak, and you can tell that from all of the financial numbers that we put in. And the true value of this, especially for the sizable organization, is to understand and be able to get this information sliced by team, sliced by program, sliced by manager, sliced by anything you talk about, like a business unit or department. You can have this information and understand, narrow down where these numbers are really coming from, be able to drill down to this information. This is very, very, very valuable. You can probably read all of the other titles on these charts here. The earnings, chart about the earnings, chart about the based on the project stage, or based on the project status, or based on the snapshots. I think more interesting slides, more interesting reports could be here, where we could actually see which projects are actually yielding more revenue than others, right? Or which products. Remember, we're talking about projects and products. So you can align it as a product, and which product is bringing more revenue than others, or any other KPIs, right? Or value proposition initiatives. So you can compare some of these numbers and variances against your budgets, looking at the forecasts and the reforecasts and actuals, and compare all those three if you're in the current month, and you can project how the difference is going to look like in the future, right? So you can look and tap into that future window and look at the financial trends. This is interesting from the resources and product development perspective, and how efficiently we plan our resources. So this is allocated versus requested resources. So basically, if you have a lot of people overwhelmed, you're not going to have a lot of progress. And you have a lot of people not assigned, you not getting much progress either. So you need to have that. You try to assign everybody in the right pace, so you get the most results off of those teams. And this is kind of showing you the way you've been doing this, as well as what is it what is it ahead of you, so you can actually make a corrective action to either unassign, distribute the allocation of the work to those teams and people, or vice versa, maybe assign them if they're not assigned. And the trend is basically, the more in the future look, the less you have plans for those teams. But from the financial perspective, we really should have a complete picture, usually for the yearly fiscal year planning cycles, because there's taxation, there's all these yearly cycles that are involved in the financial process that would kind of fall down on the plate of the PMO to help to understand where we're going to actually invest and spend our budgets. There's also additional capability to engage modern cloud data processing to get trends, to get forecasts, to actually use the data to be more scientific and see that future even further, or confirm or affirm, confirm some of the assumptions about what you're looking at. Very, very powerful these days to engage some of those new methods of looking into the future. Looking at the risks, if you are running risk management process, you can also tap, and include the risk management and the risk management trends into your analytics. And here's a little bit of a video. You can see how this is shaping up, over time, and you can kind of make some of those decisions and say, well, we've been managing this, maybe high ticket items here, and they've been moving positively or negatively, so you can make an action. So that's probably everything I wanted to show today. A few words about the simplicity. At the end of the day, those budgets, forecasts, and actuals, having them figure this out. How do we actually fill the 100% of the field? Labor, expenses, capital expenses, other expenses. How we lay out those budgets? How do we plan this, either by product or by project or by value stream or by something else? That's really, that's up to you. It's up to your company's nomenclature, how you call your investments and how you organize your work. You can organize your work into projects, so be it. If you organize your work into products, no problem, right? It doesn't really matter from our financial, if you will, perspective. How you slice and dice the work packages that you need to do, and you need to have those teams that are going to work on this. We need to account for that. We need to buy equipment or spend on some materials in order to fulfill those, create those projects or products. And that's basically the bottom line for the budget. It needs to be entered in. It needs to be forecasted. It needs to be budgeted. It needs to be reforecasted continuously. It needs to be tracked from the actual perspective. And you need to run the analytics to understand what's going on, what's the business decision that you need to make, and make the right business decision based on that information and continuously improve. I'm going to switch to my slides. I'll be honest, I don't have much on the slides. I do have a question and a Q&A over here. So I'd like to turn to Yuri and ask if you have.
Yes, thank you, Alex. This was a great presentation. I hope everyone got some value out of this. And so far there are no questions in the chat. If you do have any questions, please go ahead and post them in the chat. We have a couple of minutes. We'll give everyone opportunity to do so. And again, just as a reminder, this will be available for replay on our YouTube channel. I did post a link into the chat for everyone to see. It's a whole, not only this one, but our previous webinars are also there. And the tool that actually Alex was demonstrating, that's our Power PPM tool. You can try it absolutely for free. We can activate like a sandbox environment for you for 30 days or so, and you feel free to create projects, work on the financials, and just see the full functionality. If you are interested, go ahead and do so by following the link in the chat. I think outside of that, we're good. No other questions in the chat. So as I said, hopefully we're back and we'll be able to continue these type of webinars. At least we're going to try to get together a couple of times a month, and just be a lookout for our email invites. Thank you all.
All right, yeah, I do want to thank everybody who joined. We really, really appreciate your time. Please follow up with us if you would like to schedule a one-on-one demo or discuss some of your challenges. We will be happy to share some of the experience, talk about it, and figure out if we can help. Otherwise, thank you for joining, and have a great day. Thank you.